My parents came to this country with $20. Not $20 a week and not $20 that they saved up. It was $20 total that was folded into my dad's hand at the airport by his cousin the night that we left Vietnam. And that $20 was everything that his cousin had to give us that day. Today, I run a cleaning company that does 7 figures a year, and I have never cleaned a single house in my life. People get stuck on that. How do you run a cleaning company and not clean? Let's stay with me here because the answer is the whole story of who I am, and it starts in a village on the other side of the world. See, where I come from, I was born in an extremely small village in Vietnam, where almost my entire family on my mom's side lived. My dad didn't come from money. He grew up very poor, but he was extremely intelligent and brilliant. He was so brilliant that a complete stranger paid for his entire education from when he was younger all the way through a master's degree because they looked at him and saw what he could become. My mom, unfortunately, had the opposite story. She dropped out of school in the 5th grade to start working because she needed to help feed her family. And my grandma was older, so she had to take care of her. And then the war took all of it. And I'm not going to get into the details here, but my dad survived things most people don't survive. That includes prison camp. And by the time it was over, my parents had lost everything and were raising 5 kids in poverty in a country that collapsed around them. When the US finally decided to let us come over, it still almost didn't happen. Every time that we tried to leave, it seemed like something always came up. There was one time where, termites ate our paperwork. And so they wouldn't let us on the boat because basically you couldn't even read the paperwork at that point. So they didn't let us board. But we found out later that that boat sank and everyone on it died. And I think about that moment more often than I should. I honestly felt like something was watching over it. Us. And we made it here by plane when I was 4.5 years old. My entire village drove 5 hours to the airport to see us off, and that's when my cousin pressed that $20 into my dad's hand. That was the entire net worth of my family the day we landed in America. What those first years were actually like. My dad worked 3 jobs. My mom stayed home with us. We rented the cheapest place they could find. And when I say cheap, it was not great. Horrible neighborhood. It was crawling with mice and roaches. It was very disgusting. And I started kindergarten there in that neighborhood. I started kindergarten not speaking a single word of English, and I was sitting in a room where I had no idea what anyone was saying because I couldn't speak the language. I couldn't make any friends because I couldn't talk to them. And then there was Mrs. Hoover, my kindergarten teacher. She stayed after school with me every single day to read with me and teach me English. She was a grown woman who gave a confused little immigrant kid her own time every single day after school, expecting nothing back. Because of her, I picked the language up very fast, and I've never forgotten her. I think she's part of why, to this day, that I notice exactly who shows up for people who can't do anything for them in return. Within 3 years, my parents had saved enough to buy a house. 3 years, which is crazy. From $20 and 3 jobs to a home of their own in Washington State. That's the standard I was raised next to. So when people ask if I'm afraid of hard work, I almost laugh. I was built by people who turn nothing into something with their bare hands. So where I actually learned operations, here's the part that made me who I am in business. And I didn't have a name for this or really thought about it much until much later in life. When I was a teenager, my dad got very sick. And it started with a broken arm, of all things. It was like one injury woke up everything that has been sleeping in his body. He got diagnosed with diabetes, an autoimmune disease, blood clotting problems that gave him heart attack after heart attack. There were conditions that even the doctor couldn't fully name. And by that time where all of this popped up, my older siblings had already moved out for school and work, so it was me and my mom taking care of him. And because I was the only one who spoke English fluently in the house at that time, I basically became the operations manager of my dad's life, his entire life. I took him to every appointment. I managed all of his medications, and there were so many. I sat in hospital rooms translating between my father and his doctors week after week, year after year. We were there so often that his cardiologist gave me, who was a teenager at that time, his personal cell phone number and told me to call anytime. He even once let me sit in on my dad's open heart surgery, and I was just a kid coordinating care across a dozen doctors for the most important person in my life. And that is where I learned the thing that I'm genuinely good at. Not the task, the system. Just knowing who needs to do what, by when. So the right thing happens for the right people depending on it, whether or not I'm the one physically doing the work. I was never the surgeon, but I was the one who made sure the surgery happened. And I was the one who was making sure that the medications were right and nothing was slipping through the cracks. I was running operations in a hospital hallway before I ever ran a business. And the moment time became everything was when my dad passed away a year before I finished college. And I want to tell you about the moment that changed the entire direction of my life, because it's the real reason any of this exists. And I still get very emotional every time I talk about it. A few years after he died, I had a corporate job. I was pretty good at it. I traveled constantly. I set up operations for hospitals, hired and trained teams, moved from city to city, lived in new cities constantly. From the outside, it looked like success. And one day, my mom asked me something very simple. She wanted to go back to Vietnam to visit my dad's grave, and she wanted me to come with her. And I said no. Because I was in the middle of a project at work, I couldn't leave. I told my own mother, who crossed an ocean with $20, to give me a life that I couldn't go to my father's grave with her because of a job. And that broke something open in me. I have spent my entire life being the person who shows up for the people I love. I held my family together through my dad's worst years. And somewhere along the way, work had quietly turned me into someone who couldn't show up at all. My mom is getting older. I do not get unlimited Sundays with her. And I had to build a life that was eating the one thing I actually wanted, which was the freedom to take her anywhere, anytime, without asking anyone for permission. So I quit. I didn't even have a real plan. I just knew I was done letting work own my time. So now you understand the cleaning company, and you understand the thing people get stuck on. I don't clean the homes. My team does. They are professionals that I pay very well and protect fiercely. And I want to be clear about why I respect them the way that I do. I know exactly what it is to be the person doing the hard, invisible work that holds up someone else's life. I did it in hospital rooms for years. I know what it feels like to be the one nobody notices who's actually keeping everything running. So my cleaners are never invisible to me. My job was never to be the labor inside the machine. It was to build the machine. It was to create systems that take care of my clients, that takes care of my cleaners, pays people well, and runs whether or not I'm standing in the room. That is the exact same thing I was doing at 16, just with a business instead of a family. I built a structure that makes sure people are cared for. So the only difference now is I'm finally getting paid for the skill I've used my whole entire life. And I almost went a completely different way with it. I loved all of my dad's doctors so much that I went to college for biology, and I was planning on medical school. Then I just came so close to spending my life working in someone else's system. Instead, I learned to build my own. And that's exactly what this channel is, because I'm not done building. The cleaning company is one chapter, but it's not the whole book. And right now, I'm pulling myself out of the daily operations completely, and my partner and I are co-founding a tech startup We're co-founding a tech startup for service business owners like me, who started from zero and got to where we are. You'll see that unfold here from the beginning, but this channel isn't just my story. It's everything that the story taught me. How to buy back your time, how to hire people better than you, how to build a business that runs without you standing in it. Every week, I'm breaking down what I've learned, what I'm seeing in this industry, and what I'd do if I were starting over today. I've watched way too many people get rich advice from people who never built anything. Well, I built it. I'm still building it. Subscribe, because the next chapter starts now.